Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining the UCLA Anderson EMBA Experience Leaders in Finance event. This event is part of an 8-part series where we've introduced you to the diversity of thought that UCLA Anderson can provide to you as a student. Each event has a different theme or industry featured, so you'll have the opportunity to learn about the Anderson Academic Center and the resources that align with that theme or that industry. Today, we're highlighting our finance strengths, which include our Fink Center for Finance, followed by hearing from a few incredible EMBA alumni from the finance space. Now, don't worry if you've missed any of our previous events. We will post the recording of the event on our EMBA events page, or you can find the recording on our YouTube playlist. A few housekeeping items. We are recording the session and it will be posted on YouTube for people to view on demand after the event. We welcome you to have your camera on or off during the event. Our recording display will only show our panelists today, but the recording audio will capture the entire session. We will have one break for Q&A after our alumni introduction and welcome you to raise your hand and ask any questions live. We also want to let you know that we have additional events just for this session isn't really for asking too many individual questions about your candidacy for the EMBA program, but we can meet with you on a one-on-one basis another time. We'll send you a link to those upcoming events too in our follow-up email. Now, I'd like to introduce you to Lori Santikian. Lori is the the faculty director of the Fink Center and also associate professor of finance and strategy. Lori, I messed up your title, so please go ahead and reintroduce yourself. Great to see you, Lori. Thank you for being here. I think you're on mute there. There you are. Hi.
Thank you so much. All you needed to know was Lori. So we'll go after that.
Okay. Thank you so much, Lori. Do we want to put on? Let's see your slide. We also have a copy of your slide if you'd like us to use our copy.
You're all good here. Okay, Thank you so much, everybody. And thank you, Christina, and the entire EMBA team who organized today's event and all the other events that Christina mentioned. So as Christina said, I'm on the faculty here in finance and strategy, and I also head up our Fink Center for Finance. So as you've heard in the other sessions, or if you've missed them, you might have just sort of heard through the grapevine that Anderson is really blessed with several centers of excellence. And so when we think about centers in Anderson, we think about a center as being a bridge between the sort of academic study of a field and how it's implemented in practice. So we have several centers spanning lots of different fields, including finance. And so the Fink Center is really sort of based on this premise as well. We try to think about what is the sort of frontier of finance and how that evolves over time. And we try to be a very valuable bridge between sort of 3 main constituents. We think about our students, so our current students and all of our programs, our prospective students, as well as the faculty and research side, and also, of course, the practitioner community. So being a bridge between the academic side of finance and the practical side of finance means that the practitioner community is a very important stakeholder in what we do. And so let me tell you just a little bit about some of the sort of key program objectives that we have in all of these different areas. So as students, we try to provide sort of a supplement to the curriculum in terms of training and skills. So making sure that you get access to sort of what are the cutting edge skills that are demanded by the job market. We try to expose you to sort of thought leadership in the field. So that comes from both research and practitioner insights. And we try to expand your network. So give you opportunities to access people in the field that can provide you with, career guidance, insights on the actual sort of technicals of the field, and just help broaden your scope, both around the ideas in finance as well as people in finance. And so for students, that takes on many forms, and sort of takes on different activities that have varying sizes. So sort of at the largest end of the spectrum, we have our various conferences. So our flagship conference is the Fink Investing Conference that happens every spring. Typically, we're able to welcome several hundred people to campus, and it's a great mix of students and faculty and a lot of practitioners. Of course, right now, everything is being done virtually, but we've had great success doing this virtually as well. And so in a very large scale conference, we're able to sort of bring together keynote level speakers as well as panelists who can shed light on the sort of cutting edge issues in finance right now. And it also gives an opportunity for students to mingle with each other as well as with practitioners and help sort of discuss ideas and meet each other and expand our network. At the smallest end of the spectrum, we have things like fellowships. So we have fellowship opportunities in investment management, investment banking, private equity, and quantitative finance that are focused on mentorship. So some of these fellowships are targeted specifically to those who are seeking summer internships. So in investment banking, for example, they're focused on those who are seeking a summer internship the following summer. So they tend to be focused on first year sort of full-time MBA students and maybe second year FEMBA students. But there are no sort of rules that exclude any programs. It's more sort of a matter of what your career objective is. Many EMBAs are not seeking an internship, so that particular fellowship might not apply. But in general, we try to both recognize performance in a given field, as well as help those who are trying to switch into that field. And so the fellowship opportunities provide sort of opportunities for students to have dedicated mentors and also be part of a group of sort of elite Anderson finance students who are joined together by that fellowship. So you can think about it as a subset of the really spectacular alumni family that you'd be part of at Anderson. And this would be a subset of sort of, elite finance students during your time here. And sort of in between the 2 points of that spectrum, we also have kind of medium-sized opportunities. So one thing that we used to do in person, and that has actually worked really, really well virtually, is to have small group sessions with practitioners. So we used to host a lunch or a dinner in person, but it turned out that doing this virtually also meant that we could invite alumni who don't live in Los Angeles, or practitioners who, again, sort of are very hard to book and sort of get to campus personally. Many people are very excited to talk to our students, and the Zoom environment allows them to do that in a way that they wouldn't have been able to in person. So we're hosting a lot of these we're calling them virtual networking sessions, where on Zoom we have at most 8 people and a practitioner. The practitioner tells us about their career, tells us about insights from sort of what's going on right now, sometimes walks us through financial models if there's interest in that through the Zoom screen share. So it's been a really great way to sort of bring together the Anderson alumni community, our current students, practitioners who are not necessarily Anderson alumni, but who are at the top of their field. And then we have sort of focused, if you will, sort of mini conferences. We have a private equity roundtable that is focused on, just private equity. We have a credit pitch competition that also invites speakers who are at the top of their field in fixed income to also share insights with our community. And so if you During your time at Anderson, there will be plenty of opportunities to sort of learn more about each of these areas, but it's helpful to kind of think about it on that spectrum. Individual opportunities, sort of small group opportunities, and large scale opportunities, all aimed at helping to expose students to cutting edge ideas and also expand your network of people so that you can, of course, build better connections for your career trajectory, as well as get exposed to more and more ideas. On the research side, we do a lot of sort of, work with our faculty and our PhD students in funding research. One of our more recent innovations is we host an elite academic conference, which again sort of serves this bridge between the academic side of finance and the practical side of finance. So this is a conference where we have just the top tier academic research presented, but we also host a practitioner panel that is meant to be a bridge between sort of, what are the important questions that need research. So sort of, how can researchers get insights from practitioners, as well as the opposite? How can practitioners get insights from new research that is being developed? In our inaugural conference, Larry Fink, who is the founder of our center, and David Booth, who you might have heard of, they formed our sort of, inaugural panel. This year, we'll have a panel on thinking about sort of climate change and sustainability in finance. On the practitioner side, so sort of these large scale events, all of our conferences, our more dedicated events for specific sub-disciplines of finance, our sort of, networking sessions, these all engage our practitioner community. Some of the other things that we also do include, we host this very, very selective group of leaders in asset management in Los Angeles. So we host a quarterly lunch for them where they sort of present to each other on their business and sort of, challenges and opportunities. We also just recently started to host Girls Who Invest. So this is a great program that is aimed at supporting a more diverse pipeline of people going into finance. So the idea is to sort of start when they're younger and expose them to possibilities in finance and help arm them with tools and connections to help them sort of build a trajectory. So we're very happy that we have this partnership and we look forward to building on it further. So during your time at Anderson, you can choose to specialize in finance. And some of the specific details around what that would entail, of course, are questions that you would have later and could be answered maybe better by someone in the EMBA administration. But the basic idea is that there's a set of courses that you can choose from and a set number that you would have to take to qualify for the specialization. So we have a very rich offering of finance elective courses that span the sort of dichotomy within finance, right? So kind of thinking about asset pricing and asset management, and then thinking about corporate finance. And there is overlap, of course, in these two areas, but it's helpful to kind of think about those two directions. So there are lots and lots of courses that are focused sort of specifically on finance, as well as how finance relates to other areas like, say, real estate or law or the macro economy. So if you have any questions about the courses, we can talk about them maybe later during the Q&A. But one of the other things that is really valuable about the finance experience at Anderson is that there are opportunities to invest real money. So we believe very firmly in the value of experiential learning. So there are various opportunities. Two of them I want to highlight here. So there are two funds that are managed by our current students, the Anderson Student Asset Management Fund, ASAM, and the Student Investment Fund. So they both sort of share in common the idea that there's a pool of capital that is managed by current students. Of course, there's sort of an overlapping generations model where These funds have been managed by students for many, many years. So there are alumni from each fund's management, but the current students sort of take decisions while they are sort of held in the management position of the fund. And so what is different about the two funds is just sort of investment style. So ASAM is focused a little bit more on sort of quantitative analysis. The Student Investment Fund is a little bit more like fundamental investing in equity. But the idea is that it's very selective. So 20 students form ASAM, 12 students form the Student Investment Fund. These are open to all programs. Some of the scheduling constraints might impact who sort of chooses to apply. So the Student Investment Fund, for example, meets during the day, and so that might be problematic for those who are employed during the day. ASAM is a little bit, the schedule is a little bit more friendly for those who are employed full time, but these are open to all programs and are just a really great way to just practice actually managing money. There's really no substitute for that, and so we try to give those opportunities. As I mentioned, one of our main objectives is to give you access to sort of thought leadership and ideas and a broader network within industry. And so through the various events I mentioned before, we try to make that happen for you in kind of a more intimate way, as well as a much broader channel. So I've included here, and you'll be able to reference all of this on our website as well, sort of a flavor of our investing conference and some of the keynote speakers that we've had before. We also host sort of special speaker events that fall outside of that particular conference. A couple of years ago, we had Howard Marks from Oaktree, who came and gave he gave a great talk on his new book, Cornhall, which is so full of life. Usually it was really full that day, and we can't wait to get back there and do these things in person again. That was one example. We had Larry Fink and Tony Ressler of Aries. We sort of hosted a 10-year anniversary of the center in downtown. So that was a very large event with 500 or 600 people, very fun evening. Other times we do, so last year we had a special event on diversity in finance, which is something that has become part of our staple programming. And that has been really fun. We also do a lot of co-sponsoring of events with other centers. So the centers at Anderson like to collaborate with each other. And so there's sort of a wide range of special events that happen throughout the year that allow us to really tap into what is current and what is happening right now. The virtual networking series I mentioned earlier, these are just some examples of our recent speakers. These are really just a great opportunity to meet other students, both in your program and other programs, and get to know in a very meaningful way a selected practitioner who can offer a lot of insights on their job, sort of give guidance, as well as talk about markets right now. As a center, we were founded about 12 years ago as the Center for Finance and Investments. Larry Fink of BlackRock, you may have heard of BlackRock. They're the largest asset manager in the world. Excuse me, their assets under management just skyrocketed even more recently. So he's one of our near and dear alumni, both of UCLA in terms of the college. He went here as an undergrad, as well as at Anderson. And he decided to sort of give a gift to the center, and after that it became named the Fink Center. So he serves as our chairman of the board. We also have about 40 other prominent leaders in finance who form our board. We meet twice a year. Larry participates in all of our meetings. And the board becomes kind of a really great group to help advise us on what sort of enhancements does the curriculum need? What kind of topics are very important right now in practice? Sort of, you know, be a bridge between, again, the sort of academic side of finance with what is really topical and cutting edge, and how can we bring that in to the experience of all Anderson students. We are a small operation, so I serve as the faculty director. Adjunct der Davidian, who's an alum, she's also a double Bruin from UCLA kind of undergrad, as well as Anderson. So she serves as our senior manager of programs and operations, and Cynthia Rueda is our program coordinator. So we together try to make a lot happen with our very lean operation here. I don't know if we have an opportunity, Christina, for any questions now, or if you want to defer until after the panel. But if you'd like to learn more, here's a link to our website. Of course, you could just kind of Google UCLA Fink Center and it'll come up. If you have any questions, please email us and we'll be happy to get back to you.
Thank you so much, Lori. It's always so wonderful to see all the work that you and your team are doing. So impressive. Thank you for connecting our students with the industry. We really appreciate what you do. Let's see here. We might just go ahead and go into our panel, and then if you can stick around later, Lori, that'd be wonderful for Q&A, but we will start. We will introduce our panelists. So if I can ask Khuram, Claudia, Adam, and Thuong to join now. We will spotlight you here. Great to see you all. So alumni and current students, but not for very long. They're going to graduate in a few months. Can you believe that? Time flies. All right, so just waiting on Khuram now. But actually, let's go ahead. Okay, there he is. Hi, all. Let's go ahead and kick things off by allowing you to give us a little bit of a background on your career and also why you chose Anderson to get your MBA. And we can start things off there. Let's see, we'll go in order from, I guess, how I can see things now. Maybe we'll start here with Claudia. Can you give us a little background?
Sure. Hello, everyone. So I'm Claudia Daniel, and my career really started, I joined Ernst & Young, so I did public accounting for a few years. Typical route, I ended up getting hired by one of our clients. So I worked for Time Warner, who was a parent company for Warner Brothers. Spent quite a bit of time there, in various functions, internal audit, compliance, accounting, credit and customer operations, the finance transformation group with accounting responsibilities in financial planning and analysis, mainly focusing on the home entertainment business, so physical DVDs, games, digital downloads. And then I went to Sony, and now at Sony I'm responsible for international theatrical, so overseeing the financial planning analysis aspect of all our branches throughout the world. Obviously, we've been impacted now because of COVID, but we have a very robust business. As far as when my journey to Anderson, it has been a fantastic one. It's something that I wanted to do for a long time. And what drove me here was really, it's a top-notch program. Bottom line, they're top ranked. And the diversity of the different options that you can take in terms of core classes and electives. The sky is the limit really when it comes to that. And you're going to be tapping into just a wonderful network of individuals. You're going to share similar backgrounds. You're going to learn from them. So there wasn't really anything not to like about Anderson. And there was really no option other than to come here. And it has been that since day one. Even from the experience that I had with Shannon, who was a pleasure to deal with, being able to identify what my needs were, which potentially where I would benefit from the program, down to professors, administration, and my fellow classmates. So it's been fantastic.
Thank you. Maybe now, Adam?
Hello, everybody. So really happy to be here today and just paying it forward, just because, what an awesome experience I had at UCLA. But a little bit of my background. I'm a portfolio manager at City National Rochdale. So I work with a lot of high net worth clients and manage their investments, stocks and bonds and alternative types of investments. And you know, my career really started back in 2003 at Countrywide, and I worked in many various finance roles, capital markets, treasury, corporate finance, and then finally as a portfolio manager there. And really, what I learned about myself is that I wanted to work with individuals. I loved working with people, and I wanted to manage their money. So fast forward many years, I got my CFA, my Chartered Financial Analyst designation, and I thought that that would be enough to make my dreams a reality. But it turns out really in finance, you know, the MBA is something that's very, very desired and looked very highly upon. And even at my firm, it was a prerequisite to really achieve where I wanted to get to. So, you know, I decided that it was a no-brainer, and, you know, UCLA was my first choice. And, you know, in terms of why I did it, I didn't do it to change careers. I did it as a career enhancer. And then also the way that I see my career developing maybe 10 years down the line or so, you know, really, you know, getting into that executive type position, whether it's in the financial industry or any other type of business, just bringing my wealth of knowledge. And really what the MBA did for me was it not only provided me an amazing network, because I really learned a ton from people, not just at the curriculum level, but really a lot from everybody in the cohort, and made lifelong friends. But it really rounded out my finance knowledge too. So I was able to take a lot of classes within venture capital, private equity, understand how deals and businesses get financed, not just at the security, stock and bond level, but in actual, like, you know, venture capital type of business deals. And then in addition to that, also within real estate as well, you know, a lot of my clients are entrepreneurs or they invest in real estate. So it was great for me to understand and have that conversation with them as well. So that's it.
Thank you. Thuong, you want to go up next?
Can you hear me? Hi, everyone. My name is Thuong. I am a Chief Investment Officer for Gehr Hospitality. We are a private investment firm focusing on investing in commercial real estate properties with a focus on hotels. So we acquire hotels and we asset manage them throughout a certain period of time. My career really started with being an analyst as an investment banker in New York. I worked for Deutsche Bank and then later moved to alternative investments with Credit Suisse. So I joined real estate 10 years ago, and I would say that that's a transition from moving from one sector to the next. Why I chose to go to UCLA particularly, or why MBA in general, is we have a succession planning program here at the company. And so naturally, the executives want to make sure that we're well-rounded in terms of our leadership skills and our ability to see from different perspectives, not just on the finance side, because my background has always been very focused on finance. So I applied to UCLA along with two of my other colleagues. All three of us got in, and all three of us attended the same program, the same class, and graduated at the same time back in June. So all three of us really enjoyed the program. What I came into the program was to focus on leadership development, but what I came out of it was something completely different. In addition to learning about leadership styles and ability to manage in this environment, what was really surprising for me is my focus in entrepreneurship, which was discussed earlier. That was my specialization. So even with the finance degree, I still finding a lot of opportunities to learn something different. And it has impacted me significantly because once the program was over, I was able to look at my career a little bit differently than I used to. In fact, once the program ended in June, I've been involved with 3-4 different startup companies that focus on real estate, focus on technology. And it's a very unique time too. And I hope that when you enter the program, you're able to explore different options. But real estate industry in general is going through a lot of changes given the COVID environment, the disruption in hospitality, restaurant, hotel, in multifamily, etc. So there's a huge movement on repurposing the space using technology, scalability. So it could not be a more unique time to be able to explore all those options within finance, within real estate, within technology, if you starting your program soon. So I can speak more about that later, but thank you for having me, and nice to meet everybody.
Thank you, Thuong. All right, Khuram.
Hi, everybody. I'm Khuram Bhatti. I'm the current CFO at Jenny Craig, and I don't want to rehash a lot of what my other alumni just said, so I'll try to cover some of the topics that I think might be of interest to you. So I can empathize with you guys. I've been exactly in the same position you guys have been, and so have the rest of the alumni, thinking to yourselves, am I going to do this? Am I ready to finally just get over that last hurdle and go back and get my MBA? So I completely understand where you guys are coming from and what you're probably thinking right now, and we are telling you that this is an absolute no-brainer, and it's something that you should feel really good about. And even if there's any reluctance or hesitation left, we can all assure you that the breadth of experience of the professors, the high pedigree of education that they have, you're really going to walk away with this, not just sharpening your technical skills, sharpening your tools a bit, but more from just the networking capabilities and abilities you're going to get from being able to have just overall new wealth of knowledge that you didn't have before the program. So I'll cover a little bit about my background. I am originally an East Coaster. I'm from New York. I moved to California 3 years ago. I started my career back in the city, and I was on the FP&A side. I began at Canon. I spent a couple of years there. I moved over to Revlon, spent a couple of years there, and then before I left New York, I was the CFO at Zara, the clothing company. And then once I left there, I came over to a veterinary healthcare company in the northern part of LA County, the name National Veterinary Associates. So I spent most of my time in public companies, switched over to private equity, and it's great now that I have a nice, well-rounded background with a bit of public, a bit of private equity, and it really helped open up a lot of my learnings and to be able to absorb a lot more from the classes. And what I can tell you is it's really great that the way they set this up, you all start at the same place. You're in the same core classes, and then after the first semester, you all just go on your own journey. You get to pick things that you really think you want to focus on, from finance classes to places where you think you have weaknesses. I even look back, I'm so glad I took business law. Now, when you have that seat at the table, you don't feel like you lack the confidence to speak that language. So to me, I mean, just the overall inventory of classes available, and even more so with the pandemic, it really helps to choose what best fits for you. And you can have a lot more flexibility too. And who knows what it will look like in the event you guys decide to join, if it will be in person or remote, or if there'll be an option of remote available. But it really allowed a lot of us to take classes we probably wouldn't have taken in the past. But one thing I want to really stress, and maybe I'm trying to boast up the UCLA program too much, and I'm not trying to be a salesman, but I would say is you really are part of a school that is a top tier school. And for me, the selection, I think everybody else had said it too. I didn't even apply anywhere else. There's only one school I wanted to go to, and it was UCLA, and I'm really fortunate to be part of the program. And while we're near the finish line, Claudia and I are almost there. We're going to be very grateful when it's finally done. It's been a long time coming, but I can only say some great things about the overall program, the staff. I mean, I think everybody that I've worked with has been nothing but pleasant and helpful to try to get you onboarded and ready, and always willing to take questions. We were hit, our class, the 21 class was hit with the biggest pivot we've ever had to face, which is the pandemic. So us all being remote, they've been nothing but helpful in trying to adapt. They've been always on top of it with technology and trying to get us informed on communication. So if they can handle the pandemic, the staff here, I really feel confident that they can really take anything else on. So that's a little bit about me and a little bit of a glowing review of UCLA.
I promise we did not pay Khuram to say any of that, but we really appreciate it. I do have one question for you before, I don't know if Lori's still on, but maybe we can invite Lori on. But one question for the students and alumni, you know, you all come from such rich backgrounds in finance. So coming to a really unique experience where the individuals on your left and right in the classroom setting may not be from finance. I'm curious to hear about your experience and your experience with really gaining this really rich network of diverse individuals. Like, can you tell me a little bit about like what your classmates were like and how the diversity of thought has really shaped how you approach things now? And we can start off maybe with Claudia again. We can go in that order.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's been a great experience because obviously I come with a finance and accounting background, and I think as you go through this journey, I was looking at the, at the list of people I had signed up, and quite a few of you have a finance background. So my company was nothing but supportive as far as me doing the program. They were very, very, very pleased that I was pursuing personal growth. So we're friends, but I did get the question though from some friends saying, well, you have a background in finance, you know, that's been your career. Why do you want to pursue an MBA? And I can tell you that my experience has been fantastic because you are going to work with a group of people that are top notch in their industries, in their areas. So I've gotten the opportunity to, for example, in my group, we have a chemical engineer, and just to hear her thought process, you know, how she looks at things has been also a growing experience for me. We have a marketing individual, we have someone who has a great deal in operations and sales. So a lot of experience that comes together and it's only going to make you grow as an individual. Inevitably, there are going to be some classes where you are going to be the lead and you're going to know more than others. And what is very interesting, and I think it was very good for me, is that the professors are leaders in their area. They're top researchers, PhD. You couldn't ask for anything better. But at the same time, they're very receptive and very appreciative of the background that you bring to the classroom. So they're very respectful. They want to hear your experience. They want you to share that with other individuals. And that's what makes the experience, in my eyes, even richer, because you have top faculty in front of you, and you have all of these individuals with different backgrounds. They're just adding to that experience, and then, you know, might switch your lens on how you look at things. Obviously, I work with a lot of great individuals, but how many times do I, you know, get to sit down at the table with a physician, with a chemical engineer, with someone who has a military background, and share the experiences on how perhaps we're looking at an issue and how they see it and how they come up with solutions. So it's been a very enriching experience in my eyes.
Does anyone else have anything to add there? We can go, Thuong, I saw you unmuted.
Sure. As mentioned earlier, finance has so many aspects to it. And even with investment banking background, I came in and I found there are so many aspects to learn. And taking venture capital classes, a friend of mine or a classmate of ours who was a CFO too, he took options pricing model, fixed income. So even though you think you come from finance, I think you'll be surprised the diversity of options that you can pursue. Several of my classmates took real estate as well and learned a bunch from it, even they didn't have that background. But in terms of, and I learned quite a bit. I think most of the finance component that I learned during the program was really on the entrepreneurship side. And that's not just number and valuation. It's about term sheet negotiation, about structuring your company from startup, about how to raise money, et cetera. So it's very valuable depending on what you want to learn. And I find that very exciting. In terms of classmates, I think one thing we take for granted, we come in and we said we're gonna have a network of friends that can help with our career. But I found on, at least with a limited time since we graduated, the amount of support you get, or I got from just our classmates. They come from so many diverse backgrounds that, for example, I'm in finance, that's all I learned, but now I have friends who are in the medical field as well as in the military. So when my loved ones got sick, and needed to get to the hospital. And immediately I knew who to call, be it for the lung, for the heart, for even COVID for that matter. In fact, my mom is currently at UCLA Anderson for COVID treatment, but she wouldn't have been able to get that support and that access had it not been for some of the classmates that I made through the program who happened to be staff on site. So it's great for the career expansion, but the friendship and how much people willing to help and mentally support you in all aspects of your life, I think is really critical and extremely valuable for me. And UCLA absolutely provides that. I have 140 friends in the class, and they're going to be there forever. And so that's like the big bonus that I didn't anticipate getting out of the program, but now feel so grateful that I got that.
Adam?
Yeah, and you know, Thuong, I just want to reiterate everything that you said because it's so spot on. And it, you know, another thing that I'd like to add too is if you're coming in with a finance background, I mean, think of who you hang out with at work or in your social circles. You're in a finance bubble, you know, and how much can you really learn about so many other things in the business world if you're just with finance people, you know? So in the program, there are many different types of industries. I mean, you guys see the sheets that are put out by UCLA of all the different industries and then functions within those industries. And all these people they're engineers, they're salespeople, you know, they're in the military as well. So they're doctors, they're lawyers, and there's just so much that you learn from people because they think different from you and they have different experiences from you. So for me, that was, I would say, more than half of everything that I picked up from the program is just being able to have my eyes opened. And for me in the investment world, I mean, you know, we invest in different types of companies and everything. And how cool is it to actually talk to people who work at these companies that I've been investing in, you know, for all of my clients. And that just kind of brings everything full circle. So everybody is going to have, every one of you out there, I mean, you have your career and everyone's different, but everyone's going to get something just like I did, just like Thuong did. You know, just like Claudia and Khuram. So everyone's going to take something a little bit different that means something to them. And what's cool as well is, you know, if you're a finance person, guess what? You get to be the finance specialist in your little team, and you get to teach people about all the things that you know. And a lot of times when you're teaching, you know, you get to learn even more when you're teaching because you actually have to really understand it to teach somebody that. So, you know, I thought that just little something that hasn't been said that I wanted to add as well.
Thank you, Adam. Go ahead, Khuram.
Yeah, so I feel like I don't want to be redundant here. I'll try my best to put some original thought to this. Let me talk about just at least the diversity of your peers, your classmates, which is so important. I came into this, I'm thinking to myself, how will I be able to connect with even 10 people? And now looking back, I have spoken to, and I'm not going to say I'm friends with 140 very closely, but I definitely know 140 people, and I know them well enough that I could hang out with them to grab a drink. And it's really interesting because I think the way the program kicks off, it forces you to get out of your comfort zone right from the very beginning, and then you become more vulnerable, and it's easy to learn about others and to be able to really just be yourself too. So I think throughout the entire program, you have so many opportunities to venture off into new teams where you learn about new people, their backgrounds, their experiences, their industries, their specific functions they come from that are not finance related, that it just opens up so much more thought in your head that you never had before. Because I think what Adam was saying was dead on, is I'm in finance, I'm always around my finance team. So, and being in the position that I'm in, it's more people are asking me questions. So it's great to have an opportunity to learn from other finance folks too, but at the same time, just different functions that you haven't really touched on. So I think back to marketing, and even now that we're taking this operations class, that I would never be comfortable to ask these level of questions to some of the operations people in my company, because it's sometimes very basic. And you don't want to be put in that position to ask basic questions because it will just make you look less confident in what you're speaking to. So I would say just having both the access to people who have a really high level of experience in each of the different functions that are available, to even then having a nice diversity within finance, because as some of the classes that were flashed by Laura, you'll see that it covers every part of the spectrum of finance. Even myself, we have a small finance team within the cohort where we talk to each other through a WhatsApp group, because we all come from different parts of that spectrum. And then whenever we see a class come up for each semester, we find an opportunity to all join it together, and it might really play to one person's strengths that can teach the rest of us finance people. And it's a little bit easier to explain it to us than it might be to somebody who's coming from a marketing background. So then we'll start to team up as like a finance team in a finance class. So it's a lot of fun to do that. But I would say that's one part of the diversity. And then the other part is just the classes in general. I mentioned it before too. There's just, you can take, I mean, with the pandemic, you guys actually opened up the inventory of classes to basically take anything we wanted. So I think I didn't venture out too far, but I know some of my classmates started taking some classes that were probably more geared towards full-time MBAs, but it's great. I mean, there's a lot to choose from. So I have I have a lot to say about the network. And I really have to say, the one thing that's interesting, if I were to look back to every company I worked for that had MBAs working there, my perception always was it comes from people that are from a finance background. But if I'm not wrong, our cohort, it's only 8% finance. And I think it's like 92% something else. So it's great to have that diversity in the class too, where you're not just around people who have one train of thought. It's got really a nice, well-rounded, different levels of experience and functions. So that's it.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I received a question via chat that I did want to ask you, and you don't all need to reply, but one question I have here is, the folks here were all previously already experienced in finance before topping it off with the EMBA. But if you have a tech background for more than 16 plus years, what is the advice from the panelists regarding a switch to another vertical like finance? Is that even realistic during or after EMBA? And I think for the panelists, I think it would be interesting to also mention any BCO or SMR experiences here that could help potentially students make that pivot, but kind of just hearing from your perspective what you think there. I think Claudia?
Yeah, absolutely. The answer is yes. And I can tell you, along with what was mentioned earlier, you're in finance, you're still going to learn because the sky's the limit. But what about if you're not finance? I can tell you that in Khuram, you can probably relate to this. There were a lot of our classmates that didn't have a background in accounting, didn't have a background in finance. There was something totally new to them. They were not comfortable with the numbers. And it really brings a smile to my face when I talk to those individuals and we're talking about financial ratios. We're talking about the profitability of a company. We're talking about, budgets and forecasts. So you are going to become analytical. You are going to have those conversations and you're going to be able to understand the numbers. And you absolutely can switch careers. Obviously, there's more to it when it comes to switching careers, but are you going to acquire the skills that will allow you to get into a finance role? Absolutely. Whether you want to switch to finance or whether you simply want to understand the numbers better so you can engage into deeper conversations either at your company or your own company. And then going back to what Christina said, when you take the BCO entrepreneurship route, you are going to touch every single aspect of accounting and finance. And you can pair up with someone who, typically you have someone who has that background. You can pair up and learn along the way. So you are going to be putting financial statements, obviously to a lower degree, but many, many opportunities to learn and network with people that have that background.
Adam, I saw you unmuted.
I love how we're so in sync, Christina. So no, I just have a really cool thing that I would love to share. So the question about the person who's in a technical background and maybe wants to shift to finance. I mean, I can tell you it's totally possible because I've seen it happen. We had a military person in our cohort who knew from the beginning that he wanted to get into finance, and this is a military guy. Okay. So right away, once he got in the program, he started networking and trying to find a job in finance while doing all his schoolwork. And guess what? He got a job as an associate for an investment bank at Lazard. So, he didn't have a background in finance before, but he had it in his mind. He was clear about it, and it ended up happening for him. So, and I thought that was an amazing example. And then You know, in terms of other opportunities, for example, in SMR, you know, everybody in EMBA is going to do an SMR. You're going to have an opportunity to pick an SMR company that you'd want to do the project on, and it could be a finance type of opportunity. And you know, based on how well you do, I mean, you could technically, if you impress enough, maybe get a role with that firm. You know, I've heard stories with an EMBA where that has happened. So anything's possible. You know, what all it matters is your will.
Awesome, awesome. I don't know if you all have anything else to add, but I can go ahead and open it up to Q&A. Oh, here, hi, Thuong. Yeah.
Sorry, can I add one more point? I'm actually excited whoever has a tech background. I think it's a great way to transition into finance, especially in the field of technology investments. Your expertise is so valuable that the finance person doesn't have. And the fact that you go through the program and learn it and be able to work in projects or that has a finance component within technology is a great transition. A former classmate of ours was in pharmaceutical sales. She ended up now working for a venture capital company, investing in pharmaceutical companies or products. So I encourage you to think, instead of doing a whole holistic turnaround, maybe use your current expertise and expand it, and it's completely possible.
Love to hear that. Thank you. Oh man, I can't believe we only have 6 minutes left. I have so many questions for this amazing panel. There is one question I see here from Aziza. I don't know if you want to ask aloud, Aziza.
I was on mute. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for sharing. Just had a quick question. You know, can any of you guys talk about your favorite moment or experience during the program?
All right, whoever unmutes himself first. Oh, that was a tie. Okay, Khuram, go ahead.
Okay, sure. Well, our cohort hasn't really been in person in quite a bit, so that's one thing that we miss out on. But looking back to the moments where we were in person, that first week where we're just doing all of these non-educational immersion just sessions, I think that was the most awesome thing. But we did this one thing where we're doing I don't know what it was. We climbed Claudia, if you remember, we climbed the thing and we got to the top. It was like a pillar, and then you have to like just jump off of it, and you have to trust that your teammates will hold the rope and you don't fall to your death. I mean, it's pretty exhilarating. But I would say that's probably, looking back, when the first top thing I can think of where we had a ton of fun. It was outdoors, and of course we're all together. And the second is we had this ritual, and not that everybody celebrated it, but we had a ritual after Friday night classes. We all went to the Luskin and were able to get drinks, and it was a great way to decompress and just hang out with everybody and just be in our natural setting without having to be so focused on our brains, looking at the screen and learning. So I would say those are two top things for me.
I'll go quickly for 2020 class. Right after we finished our last finals, we gather at my place. I don't know, Adam, if you were there, and it's like 3.5 miles away. In a 700 square feet living room, we squeezed 65 classmates in their animal onesie outfit. So I have this picture to show. We all in our onesies of different colors and shapes and sizes, and we were drinking in that little living room. And that was, I think it's a moment where we look back and remember very fondly, because those experiences don't really come every day.
All right, Adam.
Yeah, and for me, I just want to reiterate Khuram's, because the first thing that popped into my head was the ropes course. Because right away, I mean, you're building bonds with everybody going through that experience right in the beginning. And it's leadership in practice right there, trying to get everybody through the course and getting close with one another. And then the second thing was the business residential to China that, you know, Christina and I were talking about before the call. That was just a totally eye-opening thing. I had my whole family come with me. I brought my son, my wife, my dad actually came too, who lives in Singapore. And it was just, I mean, I learned so much on that trip about just how China works. And so those are the two big things, I think.
All right, Claudia, do you have any memorable
Leadership foundations. I couldn't agree more. Yes, meeting your classmates, absolutely, because they become your family, especially your teammates.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible how that week, just within 1 week, 5 days, our students become a family within those 5 days. It's a beautiful thing. Let's see, we have maybe time for one more question. I see here, I'm so sorry, we won't be able to get to everything here. Oh, well, this is actually a really frequently asked question. How did you allocate your time for the week to attend coursework and study? Tell us more about your balance. Claudia.
We can talk about that. So there is work associated with it. There's no question about it. And I think it's just a matter of you adjusting initially. For me, the first few weeks, it was a little bit rough trying to adjust to all the readings, and I have class and I have homework. And I think part of it is you have to realize that you have to cut down in other things. And I was trying to maintain everything. I was trying to maintain, obviously work you have to maintain, you have a family, but I was trying to maintain the same level of commitment to things that I had outside on the personal level. And at some point I had to realize that those had to come down. I remember being in your shoes, and I remember a panelist saying, I had a goodbye party with my friends. It doesn't quite work like that. You don't say goodbye to your friends, but you do talk to your friends. You make them aware that, I have this commitment, and you are going to see them a little bit less, but they're very, very understanding. So once I was able to cut down on those, I think it became more of a balance, and then you get in the rhythm of things. After the first few weeks for me, I was basing on that rhythm of school and work. And I don't know for my Khuram, my fellow classmates, and for Adam and Thuong, if that was the case too, but it is manageable, but it is work as long as you find that right balance.
Thuong?
I don't have a spouse or kids, but the one thing that everyone needs to know is if you have a family, you have to rely so much on your partners. And it came up over and over again how supportive the spouses were to our classmates. And if it weren't for them, the classmate wouldn't have had the kind of time that they could to allocate to the program. So as you're thinking about MBA, definitely make sure that your spouses are supporting and realize that a lot of the effort will also go to them as well. I think workload is completely manageable if you plan ahead, and we got better as we plan ahead. I actually skip all the textbooks. I didn't read any of them. I start listening to lectures. So you have to think smart about how do you learn, what style do you learn best. I have to be thoughtful about that. So that not reading textbook and focus on notes and focus on lectures definitely helped me, but that's just me.
Okay, I think we're all already here at 1 p.m. Again, I could have asked this amazing panel 500 more questions. You've been incredible. Thank you so much for your time. And thank you everyone who's logged on today. It was great seeing some familiar faces. Oh, hi, Lori. Lori's here back. Thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and add you on just for the goodbye, but thank you for your time today. We will send you a follow-up email, all the registrants today, a follow-up email with the LinkedIn URLs to all of our panelists today. So if you wanted to reach out to them individually, I'm sure that's great. If you want to be connected, I can introduce you to as well to the panel. So great to see you all. Hopefully you learned something new. Looking forward to meeting everyone. Hopefully seeing everyone back on campus at the end of the year, crossing our fingers for a safe return. Great to see you all. Thank you for your time.